So before I start, I'm going to be passing up some information. What I'm passing up is pictures of the dog Jinx. I have medical records on the boxer, who is the one complainant. Their dog was attacked. And then I also have information and medicals on the second victim and his dog Molly.
Copies of what you have. She's passing on.
Also, just to let you know, I do have surveillance video in reference to the second incident that occurred in reference to Jinx. So on April 15, 2019, at approximately 17:26 hours, Animal Care and Control received a call from Candace Cunningham of 7551 Holly Ridge Drive in Glen Burnie, reporting that two dogs are running at large just attacked her neighbor and her neighbor's dog. It was unknown injuries at the time of the call. She advised that the dogs were still at large, described two pit bull type dogs, one black and white with a coat on, the other was brown and white with a red collar. She advised that dogs were last seen near her address. Minutes later, Animal Care and Control received another call from a Nicole Ringley of 7545 Holly Ridge Drive, advised her dog was the one that was attacked by two dogs, meeting the descriptions of the dogs from the first caller that gave. She advised that she had photos of the dogs and her husband was taking their dog to the vet for treatment. Animal Care and Control Officer Simpson patrolled the area and the dogs were not found. Officer Simpson then responded to 7545 Holly Ridge Drive regarding two pit bull type dogs at large that just attacked and bit a Christopher Ringley and his dog Molly at his residence. Upon arrival, Officer Simpson patrolled through the neighborhood and observed no violations. He then met with Miss Ringley to get pictures of the two dogs, a brown pit bull with a red collar and a black and white pit bull with a green vest. Officer Simpson completed an exposure report with her husband's information. Miss Ringley advised that her husband, Mr. Ringley, had multiple bite wounds on his forearm. She also believes their dog Molly had multiple bite wounds. She stated that her husband is at the vet's office now with their dog Molly. Officer Simpson patrolled the area again, then spoke with some neighbors who believed the pit bulls in question reside at 7594 Holly Ridge Drive. He then responded to that location. He knocked and received no response at the door. Officer Simpson then posted a comply notice to contact him with the bite department as soon as possible. At 20:34 hours, Animal Care and Control received another call from an anonymous complainant advised that two pit bull type dogs running at large on Holly Ridge Drive. Officer Simpson responded to the location and responded back to 7594 Holly Ridge Drive, the possible owner's residence. Upon his arrival, he met with the owner of two dogs, meeting the description of Christiana Ferguson. Ms. Ferguson advised of the incident involving attack to a dog and to a human, and her dogs Jinx, black and white pit bull altered six-year-old male, and Torch, a red and tan altered 6-year-old pit bull, were involved, that both of them were involved in. Ms. Ferguson turned both of her dogs over on a mandatory impound under public safety investigation and quarantine. On April 15, 2019, at 23:02 hours, dispatcher Jessica Woodson received a call from a Mr. Andrew Papagica of 7513 Holly Ridge Drive in Glen Burnie, advised that his boxer, Misty, was attacked approximately 1745 hours when he was walking his dog and two loose pit bulls running loose attacked his dog. He advised that he was calling it in after the dogs were secured with Animal Care and Control. He advised that the dogs lived at 7595 Holly Ridge Drive. He advised that he had surveillance of the incident and submitted the footage to Animal Care and Control. He advised that his dog was seen at Hufford's first, then the emergency vet hospital in Annapolis for treatment. Misty had multiple bite wounds, severe injuries to her rear area, and puncture to her neck, and severe bruising. Her open wounds were sutured to close the wounds. Officer Thomas, received both parties' information for the follow-up. I spoke to the first victim, Mr. Christopher Ringley of 7545 Holly Ridge Drive in Glen Burnie. He advised that he was around 5:15 p.m. He took his dogs outside to the back area, or backyard area. This was a townhome community and did not have a fenced-in yard, so it was open. He advised that he was standing on his patio and his dogs were underneath the deck. These two dogs came running from his left-hand side. At the time, he could not determine who the dogs were because they were in full sprint. The dogs ran straight for his smallest dog, Molly. She tried to flee, but the dog caught her in the woods, and both dogs were aggressively biting her. The brown dog was going for her throat and he tried to pull that dog off of her. Mr. Ringley advised that he repeatedly hit the dog in the head to try anything to get the dog to let go of Molly. The dog was biting Molly around her stomach. He advised that the whole time he was screaming for help, for there was no one around. Mr. Ringley stated that he hoped that the owners would come to get the dogs, but no one came. He then stated that Molly got free somehow and ran back to the patio. He advised then his wife was trying to get her inside, but the brown dog chased her and cornered her, so she couldn't. Christopher then advised that he had a hold of the black and white dog by the collar and was kicking and pushing the brown dog away, and finally they got Molly inside. Molly was bleeding badly, so he got a towel to try to get to his truck. He advised that the black and white dog was not out front the black and white dog was not out front next to his neighbor's door, so he rushed back inside and waited for the dog to leave. After the dogs left, he rushed Molly to Hufford's Animal Hospital and then to the emergency vet in Annapolis. The neighbor advised him that they called animal control. Mr. Ringley advised that he was bitten. He was not sure by which dog, the brown or the black and white one, on why he was trying to get them away from attacking Molly. He advised that he sustained bite wounds on both of his arms, hands, and wrist. He advised that he went to patient first for the treatment. I then contacted Hufford's Animal Hospital for the first records of Molly, and then the records advised that Molly presented with several large lacerations, gashes ranging from a centimeter to 2 inches and severe pocketing all over. Molly had 2-inch gash on her right side, 1-inch gash just caudal to the shoulder blade, 1-inch ventral on the neck, several punctures along the right side flank, possibly broken ribs. Hoffords took radiographs, and Molly had fractured ribs the 9th through the 11th. Placed bandage and referred to AVAC, the emergency vet hospital in Annapolis. Molly went into surgery at the surgical center at the emergency vet hospital for extensive wound repair. Molly, however, declined after the surgery. She had to be on oxygen and was not recovering. She continued to oxygenate poorly. The owners elected to euthanize her. I then, Officer Thomas, contacted the owners of the suspect dogs and spoke to a Christiana Ferguson and advised about the incidents with her dogs. Miss Ferguson was not aware of the first incident with Mr. Ringley's dog, Molly. I explained to her about the incident and how it occurred. Miss Ferguson advised that her and her husband, Devin Parker, was aware with the incident with her dogs and the boxer. I asked her to send in a statement and to have Devin send in a statement as well. Ms. Ferguson advised in her statement that on April 15th at approximately 5:30, she was coming down Marley Neck Road to turn onto Holly Ridge development. She then reached her home. She saw her daughter at the end of the driveway waiting on her to pull in. She then saw Devin standing in the entryway of the garage grilling. She parked, went inside. Devin then asked if she had seen the dogs. Devin then ran upstairs, checking the top level. She ran to the middle landing. He was rushing back down, yelling they were across the street. He opened the door, ran towards them. She got their leashes and ran out. When she got out to the corner, Devin was sitting on the ground, sitting on top of Jinx, and had Torch by the collar. Andrew was tending to his dog and trying to calm her down. She then advised that she asked him if he was okay and how badly was his dog hurt. She advised that he showed her She advised that he showed her the thigh of his dog, and she observed several punctures. She then turned to Devin to see if he was okay and noticed that his left thumb was bleeding. He told her that when he was trying to stop Jinx, the boxer bit him, thinking it was another dog. An exposure report was taken on Devin also. I then received a statement from Devin Parker. He advised that he took the dogs out. It was about 5 p.m. for a walk, came back, put them back inside. He then opened his garage to start grilling. His daughter was with her friend and going in and out of the house. He advised that he made sure the doors were closed, for the dogs were upstairs. He explained that Christiana came home, they were talking in the garage, then walked into the kitchen. He knows that the food that was out was not tampered with by the dogs. He then asked if they seen the dogs, so they began to search the house. He then heard something outside. He looked out the window. That's when he saw the dog standing next to a man walking his dog. He then jumped the stairs, ran outside to see the dogs all fighting, and the guy was walking the dog, hitting his dog Jinx to get him to back away. Jinx and the other dog were locked with each other's jaws around the other neck area, He advised at this point he reached into the dog's mouth, and when Jinx saw him, he released. The boxer then went to bite his dog and got his thumb. After separating, he sat on Jinx, so his wife came with the leashes. They then put the dogs in the house. After full review of both incidences, including the review of the medical reports, Animal Care and Control, and the means to protect the public from any more attacks or bites with the dogs, Animal Care and Control issued vicious order on both of the dogs in accordance with the Anne Arundel County Code, Article 12.4, 403D, under public safety, which is vicious. The orders were issued on April 22, 2019, to both Christiana Ferguson and Devin Parker, in which both parties signed. Christiana Ferguson, however, surrendered torch to Animal Care and Control. Mr. Devin Parker claimed ownership of Jinx and filed an appeal, and we're here today.
Do you have anything more to add?
Yeah, I was going to read Candace's email. She sent the email in when this first was all occurring. She could not be here today. She didn't really see the actual incident. However, I wanted to read her statement that she sent in. So she basically said on April 15, 2019, her children made her aware that they saw two pit bulls running loose from the windows. She took a look outside and also saw the dogs running loose all, I think she's trying to say all over the neighborhood. I went on her deck as the dogs went around back of the townhouse, and she peered over. She saw the two dogs barking aggressively and went few doors down to her neighbor's backyard. Now, what she's referring to is Christopher Ringley's. They went over and started attacking her neighbor's dog. The neighbor and the owner of the dog being attacked was trying to get the dogs off of his own dog when he also suffered injuries due to these dogs' attacks on his dogs and himself. I've never seen and encountered these dogs before, but I knew that they must have been someone's dogs in the neighborhood, because they looked very well taken care of. One of the dogs even had sort of a coat on. This incident was very concerning because my children are outside all the time after school. Anything could have happened if I let them play outside yesterday. I'm disgusted that the owners were so irresponsible to allow their dogs out on their own. I will also add these dogs were running around for at least 15 to 30 minutes by themselves. No owner of the dogs were out trying to retrieve their pets.
That's it? Okay. Sir,
Yes, sir.
what do you have to say?
Well, first, I guess that last email was kind of correct on the idea that my dogs did get out, and so we do take full responsibility of what happened. Any person, any dogs, dogs come over our house all the time. Our dogs are always out as far as in our house. They've never had an incident biting anyone, family, friends. My child literally was raised on them. My child that actually let them out that day, left the door open, which is why they got out. She was raised on them since she was 1 year old, laying across them. They've never been vicious dogs. That's not to take away from the fact of what happened that day. We completely understand that it is completely on us of what happened. Yes, my door left the door open, but I should have done things to make sure that didn't happen. With that being said, I believe that in this specific situation of what happened, my dogs went out together. When they went out together, they, for whatever reason, took on the pack mentality of when they were around my neighborhood. Like I said, they've never done anything similar that would show that this would happen. And if so, I never would have brought them into that neighborhood. So I really can't, again, not defending them. With that being said, I do know that they act completely different together, completely separate. One of the hardest things to do was the choice for torch. But with the circumstances, how they were, it made more sense to try to save one than to try to keep them together, because then that made the chance of something maybe happening again much higher. So if anyone has ever met my dog Jinx, they know that he is, again, not a vicious dog. If he was brought in here right now and if there was 100 people and 100 dogs, there would be no incidents. Again, we know we have to you can't make everything right, but we have to do our best to take ownership for what happened to, again, our neighbors and their dogs. But we at least hope that, we can bring one of our dogs home. And that's the best we can say about it. I take all measures to make sure that something like this could never happen again, though I would literally bet my life that it wouldn't, especially just with Jinx, but to take all precautions to make sure that a situation like this could never happen again.
Can you speak more to why the choice between Torch and Jinx and how that came to pass?
I guess, so how that kind of went is before, as our house was being built, because it took a year to be built, we were separated. I stayed in one place while my fiance at the time stayed in another place with Torch. And like I said, well, our brothers are both, our dogs are both from the same pack. Torch was the alpha of his litter. He's always been more of the protective one, especially with my daughter. Like I said, my daughter was raised around him, and there was a situation in our old neighborhood where my daughter was playing with another child around her size, and as Torch sat on the front porch as he usually does, just watching over, I guess the kids kind of played a little too rough, and he nipped at the dog. He didn't break skin or anything like that, but that caused for the young child's father to call the cops, so forth and so on. So there's a record behind Torch. So taking that all into account, it made more sense to try to save Jinx, who has no history, than Torch. That's literally was the only thing we had. We knew trying to get both would, not only for us, but for the neighborhood, just probably not end well. So at least try to keep Jinx instead of Torch.
Do you have a fenced-in backyard?
No, sir, but we are getting one built. We're waiting for the community is literally just built, so we're just waiting for the approval so it can be built.
How many children do you have?
One.
And how old?
4. She was actually outside playing with her the next door neighbor, and she was running. Even though the back door where I was at was open, she was coming in and out of the front door. In which, of course, the last time she came out, I told her, she can't run in and out. And I guess when she came out that last time, she just didn't secure the door, and that's how they got out. I was outside at the time, I was on the garage side and had the 2 cars in front of me, so I couldn't see the front entrance to see that the dogs had even got out. When I brought the things that I was grilling into the house and walked back outside to meet my wife, walked back inside, at that point I realized the food was still on the table, which is not like them, because if I left the food out, they would have went and got it. So, well, not got it per se, but they would have at least been around it. So that's when I realized that we should go looking for them, and that's when I saw them interacting with the dog outside.
So your daughter was unaware that they had escaped?
Yes, yeah. She had actually came around to where I was grilling at. Her friends had just went inside. She came to where I was grilling at. Was waiting for her mom to come home. We both kind of like looking down the street, waiting for the car to pull up.
Mr. Devin?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm happy that you have taken the responsibility for the actions of your dogs.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. Number one, I think what bothers me is, how old was your daughter again?
4.
4.
Yes, sir.
That's unfortunate, and that your daughter / your family has done your dogs a disservice.
Yes, I agree.
Because dogs don't know. I always blame the owners, because they have the mindset of a 2-3-year-old at best. I think, and it bothers me also that the dogs were not, that their absence wasn't noticed for 25-30 minutes, as the letter indicated. That's a long time.
Yes, sir.
Anne Arundel County laws are so written that it's your responsibility that anytime your dogs is out and about, they have to be on a leash.
Yes, sir.
And so I really don't have a lot of favorable comments, and I understand the love for your animals, for dogs.
Yes,
so we all love animals, but I don't have anything positive to say, I think, not yet anyway, in your favor in terms of it's all on you, as we say, your family, same difference. It's unfortunate. I just want to throw that out there because I try to be a good listener and clear my thoughts and think concisely as to the action that is taking place. I think I'm gonna stop at this point and let my co-worker here see what she has to say or anybody else. So while I clear my head here, because I hate to see the loss of any animal. I mean, but it is what it is at this point, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Anybody? Got anything?
Well, one question, do you have anything more to add?
Only the safety precautions being taken forward if we were to get Jinx back. I think a huge error on our part was not getting a screen door, which would have, of course, changed the situation. A screen door that came close over, forced close. That way my daughter not closing the door would not have been beneficial for them coming out that door. Also with the gate and making sure that, again, just for that something like this could never happen again. I completely agree to the fact that it is completely on us. I'm not going to blame my 4-year-old daughter for what happened with my dogs. There were 100 different ways that could have went. I could have put them back in their cages. I could have put them in the garage and closed the door. I in no way want to make it seem like we're not taking responsibility for, what happened. Again, I wasn't not going to not fight for my dog though. Understanding, of course, the ramifications and what probably would happen. But I mean, I look at my dogs like the same way I look at my child, the same way I'm sure that the victims feel as well. So, and I'm sure if it was anyone else, they would fight for their dogs as well. So that's what I mean.
What are you asking the commission to do?
Like I said, I've never been anywhere similar to this. I have no idea what I can or even should be asking for at this point. I literally just was willing to do anything it took to try to bring my dog home. So.
Are you familiar with dangerous order?
No, sir.
Okay, so there's a lot of things on the dangerous order that, a lot of it helps if you're aware of what's going on there. Because the things you're talking about, a screen door, that's not going to necessarily cut it. But
Right.
there's other things called secondary barriers. There's a lot of things that are going to be required of this dog if we were to even consider dropping this from a vicious to a dangerous dog.
Okay.
There's mandatory things that you would have to keep up with. And the fact that you're not familiar with, I don't know if we have a copy of one around so you could even see it, but.
I originally of course, searched when the difference between vicious and dangerous. So I know the difference between the orders per se, but I'm not sure what would have to happen if it was changed to that specifically. But I would get well adjusted quickly on what parameters would be necessary.
You had mentioned that you felt that because the two dogs were together, they had the pack mentality?
Yes, sir.
So were you walking these dogs separately?
No. The thing was similar to how the situation even took place when just words from me and my dogs completely stopped action. Even in the video, as I ran out and Jinx was interlocked with the boxer. The moment and my dog Torch was standing there, and what you can't hear, as soon as I said my Torch's name, he stopped and sat down. Just hearing me completely stopped it. And that's one of my biggest issues that I didn't notice for the amount of time that I did, similar to what he said. Because if I saw them and noticed them early, even walk out the door and said something to them, they would have walked back inside. It was that was that pack mentality of them being completely alone in that situation, which was again completely on me for them being alone. But if I don't have to walk them separately, because with other dogs, with people, whatever the case may be, that would have never happened.
Yes.
So, not to interrupt you, so my complainants are here, both Mr. Papajiga and Mr. Ringley, and they would like to speak.
Oh, please swear them in.
So he owns the boxer.
Yes,
Okay.
Misty. She is recovering, so that is a positive. I understand Mr. Parker's claim that he wants to get his dog back. It's fair. Anyone wants to get their dog back. It's like a child and family member to them. But being in a neighborhood where there's children, other people walking their dogs around, even if you were to take these parameters to secure the dog and make sure it wouldn't get out again, what's to say it happens again and the same result happens and someone's walking their dog, there's small children, and there's another attack again. And I don't see that, a chance should happen. It was upsetting for all of that for both him, I'm sure, Mr. Parker, and Mr. Ringley and me. And I don't think that should happen again.
If I could take you back to that day, can you confirm what Mr. Parker was saying about when his dogs heard his voice? Were they compliant?
I can't per se remember him saying anything. I do remember him coming, assisting with Jinx and getting Jinx and grabbing Jinx's muzzle and pulling it off of my dog's neck.
Okay.
And I just remember standing up and, kind of lunging towards Torch, and Torch backed away, but I don't remember him specifically saying anything, just my adrenaline was going. I just could not say.
Do you know which dog did the more significant injuries?
It was Torch for sure. It had Misty's back leg, and then she almost got punctured into her stomach. Thankfully she didn't, because it would have caused a lot more damage. Jinx had her by the neck, and that's the dog I was going for specifically. I tried, choking it to try to let it go, hoping it would let go, and it didn't. Thankfully, Mr. Parker came over and was able to assist me, because it would have caused a lot more damage. But still, together or separate, I still think those dogs are not as well trained as they should be.
And in your statement, you write it was Jinx that attacked first, though, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I was walking down the sidewalk and they came up behind me, startled me and my dog. Came up to my dog and greeted them. I thought they were friendly. I looked behind, didn't see any owner, didn't see anyone running after them. And then Jinx went at her neck, pulled her down, and then Torch, continued and grabbed her back leg, and they kind of were playing tug of war with her.
Any idea what triggered it?
No idea. They seemed friendly at first, and then they just went and attacked. My dog was, she's a year old, she's young, she doesn't know. She was just sniffing and thought they were friendly, didn't lunge at them or anything. Their dogs went first.
All right. Anything else?
No, I'm done, thank you.
Thank you. How much does Jinx weigh, by the way?
About 80 pounds, 84 pounds, I believe.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you.
So I can agree with both what Andy and Mr. Parker said. I understand he wants to bring his dog home. I did as well. She didn't make it though. What I seen that day weren't trained dogs. I wasn't even out for 10 seconds in my own backyard. Those dogs rushed my dog. It wasn't sniffing. It wasn't an interaction. I had no chance to react. She tried her best to get away because it caught us all off guard, but as soon as they pinned her down, there's nothing I could do by myself. I tried everything I could. They weren't letting go. I really don't know why they let go, but even after that, they still tried to go inside my house. I had my wife outside and my other dog. We got him inside, luckily, but the brown one tried to get inside while the other one tried to corner my dog Molly because she couldn't get back inside because they were already up on the patio. They were trying to go after both of them. Luckily, they only got one, or else I'd probably have 2 lost dogs today.
Are those wounds on your hand as a result? That's from the dog bite?
Yes.
And that occurred April 15th, and you're still?
It's
healing?
a torn ligament in my thumb.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you have anything to add before we deliberate?
I literally have, and it's not that I don't, I believe that at least one of them came to the door, and I've always seen the ring, but never been able to. I literally apologize. I had no idea that it was to the extent it was. I didn't even know about this account until after. So, I mean, I guess no matter what happens as far as today, of course, there's nothing I can do, especially for your dog, but I apologize from the bottom of my heart, regardless of what happens. Train-wise, I literally spent half of their lives trying to train them every day with them to try to kill the stereotype of they're not just pits, they're pit lab mixes. And I hated the way my dogs were treated or looked at for that. And I just apologize. The rest, I guess I'll do my best for us to work out later. I know it's nothing I can do as far as your lost dog. I'm sorry.
Anything else?
No, sir.
I have one question for Mr. Parker. Was it Jinx that you said you had alone for a period of time?
Yes, for a
And how
year.
long was that?
A year.
And you mentioned that their demeanor was different when they were together than when they were separate. So since we're here for Jinx today,
Yes, ma'am.
can you describe Jinx's demeanor when he's alone?
I would look at the equivalent of having two normal little boys compared to one. When they're together, they're more. You have to get the attention of both of them because they're more worried about each other than they are, who they're listening to. Compared to when you're dealing with one, their full attention is on you. So I can't. If I was in his room and Jinx saw me, he wouldn't when we walk in. He would come straight to me. They're just much better listeners when they're separate compared to when they're together and they're just in fun mode and they're in play mode. I would say in all interactions they've ever had, it's always been them thinking they were playing and then them had to be calmed down from their playing. We had them neutered so to make sure that their temperaments were better. Sometimes they did play a little rough with each other but again, one word and it was stopped and they were relaxed again. Jinx himself, he's just a fun dog when you talk to him, when you interact with him. Torch always seemed like he kind of understood more. Again, he was more the pack leader, so he was more observant, more, we called it more people-like. He was more looking around of what was going on, more observing the room, where Jinx is just tongue out, tail wag, and was looking to, play. So.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, sir.
I just have one more question. Before this
Yes,
incident,
sir.
how did you secure your dogs?
Well, in our basement area, there's a back area that is separated, and we built, I guess, a really big fenced-in area in that back area.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's the size of some people's whole room that they just had to themselves, and we gave them, beds within those and things like that. And then when we came home, because we both worked, of course, that they were just roaming around the house with us.
And the garage door was up again, that's when?
Yes, sir. The garage door was up because I was in the driveway grilling at the time of the incident.
Okay, I get it, I think I get it. Okay. That's all I have.
If you have nothing more, we're gonna
Yes, sir.
close discussion and deliberate.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're closed to public participation, we're in open deliberations.
Can you speak up?
Can you guys hear me?
Microphone.
Yeah. Nothing changes here as far as vicious is vicious, and I can't even entertain downgrading the order. I wish I could, but I'm just one opinion that's being offered here. It's unfortunate, and I surely don't believe in tit for tat, but the only thing I can offer is to follow the orders that's in place for Anne Arundel County for vicious animal. And that's my take.
I have to agree. I feel like we gave it a valiant effort to try to understand Jinx, but I don't think that we could do anything more than what's already been done.
Elizabeth?
I'd like to think that the dogs would be different when they are not together. The problem is that we have 2 cases of severe injury, and that's the issue, and therefore I concur with
Yeah, I think it's the two cases. I mean, obviously, I'm always, willing to think that a dangerous order can solve all problems, because essentially if they're followed, then the dog should never be able to get out again, and that should be that. The fact that the other dog's already been put down, it really does put a different spin on things, but in the end, there was some serious, not just injury to dogs, but injury to people too. And that's, in the long run, we have to tout, safety here for everybody.
The intent was the injury to the dogs. I mean, that I'm pretty confident about. The research and evidence and studies show that it's not a direct correlation between bites to dogs and bites to humans. I just want to make that clarification because I think it comes up over and over again. Just because a dog may be aggressive towards dogs does not mean that they're
No,
aggressive
I don't
towards
think
people. It
it
doesn't
is-
mean that they wouldn't be.
I don't think the human injuries here were as a result of the dogs going after the humans as much as the humans trying to
Yeah,
break the dogs up. I understand that, but in the long run, we wouldn't want to have to see someone else do the same thing.
Or someone else get caught in the middle,
Yeah, that's what
like
I
a
mean,
smaller
yeah.
person, a younger person.
Well, Anne Arundel County passed Lilo's Law 2 years ago, and, that was a case of a little, I think it was an 8-pound dog that got mauled and killed. Here we have a case of 2 40-pound dogs that were severely injured and resulting in the death of one of them, as well as a human injury as well. So, I have to believe that this is a classic case for why Lilo's Law was passed, and I'd like to make a motion to uphold the vicious dog order. Do we have a second?
You listen. I'm sorry. Say it again.
I made a motion to uphold the vicious dog order. Do we
I'll
have a
second.
second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right. Thank you, sir.
Sorry for all your losses.
Sorry.
No winners here.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.